There was a catastrophe on Earth after which not a single book was written. Neglect and hunger now reign on the planet. An aggressive dog barked at a boy who pretended to be unconscious. Without hesitation, the young man attacked the animal. Soon the boy returned to the riverbank. There was not a soul around. After loading the prey into the boat, the boy set sail from the shore. Meanwhile, his father was making entries in his diary. After the catastrophe, there were very few people left who knew how to read and write. The father met his son at the dock. He boasted about his successful hunting, but the father was still very unhappy with him. They decided to take the skin of the prey to Ringo, a local merchant. He said he would take the goods, but not from the boy. Ordering his son to wait here, the man left with the merchant. Taking advantage of the moment, the boy started the motor and sailed, docking on the nearby shore. He overheard Ringo tell the father that he had a dog that had disappeared a few days ago. For Ringo, his pet was the only friend. The man lied that he found the dog non-living in the fields, but Ringo did not believe him. He was not going to pay the customer for the skin, which rightfully belonged to him. The man asked if he had any food. They had not caught any fish in 3 days. Ringo had some fish, and he agreed to give a little in exchange for the truth. Ringo suspected that the boy found the dog alive. The merchant did not trust the young man because he was born after the infection. Nevertheless, Ringo agreed to give the old acquaintance some fish and asked to follow him. When the men left, the boy stole 2 grenades and returned to the dock. The father scolded him for not obeying him and not waiting here. The boy understands that the dog did not belong to Ringo. The merchant simply decided to get free skin. However, the father said that they should not quarrel with Ringo. In the evening after dinner, the boy heard his father coughing heavily. But despite his weakness, the man continued to make entries in his diary. Soon the father noticed his son and ordered him to go to bed. The next day, the boy went fishing and threw grenades into the river. However, instead of fish, bodies floated to the surface. Meanwhile, the desperate father also tried to find food and searched for edible roots. His condition was getting worse. Suddenly looking at the river, he panicked and rushed to his boat. The man drove as fast as he could. Ringo came to the family's house with a gun, accusing the boy of stealing his grenades. Both the father and the son denied it. When Ringo began to threaten the man, the boy confessed that he had stolen the grenades, but had not caught any fish. Ringo said that if he saw them again, it would be the end for both of them. When he left, the father told the son that he was worthless. At night, the man went to see a woman he had known for a long time. He complained that he was feeling worse. The woman was blind, but had adapted to living in the new world. Gradually everyone forgot what life used to be like. The man is horrified that dogs used to be pets, but now people hunt them like game. Children born after the infection know nothing about it. The man left frustrated. He was plagued by a persistent cough. His condition was rapidly deteriorating. He was too weak to stand, but managed to start the boat's engine. He eventually made it home and went straight to the sleeping son's room. After that, the man opened his diary and continued writing. In the morning, the boy went about his daily routine. For the first time in many days, he was able to catch a fish. He hurried to share the good news with his father, but found him lifeless at the table. The boy was bewildered and didn't know how to react. He ate the fish first as he hadn't knew proper food for a long time. Then he returned to his father and tried to wake him up again. He didn't immediately realize what had happened. The boy took the father's diary and put on his glasses, but he couldn't see clearly through them. The boy didn't understand why his father wore glasses and what the writings in the diary meant. He took the boat far from shore to leave his father in the river forever. The boy had no idea how a funeral was supposed to be, so he did what everyone else did. Soon he came to Ringo, who was clearly not happy to see him. The boy was interested in whether he could read. Hearing a negative answer, the boy called Ringo useless and knocked him out. He submerged the man in water, demanding to know why he had lied to them that the dog was his. Ringo shouted to the boy that his father should have gotten rid of him right after birth, like everyone else does. Thinking Ringo was responsible for his father's demise, the boy took the man's life. After that, he searched Ringo's house for useful things. Soon the boy visited his father's girlfriend, whom he called a witch. He asked for food in exchange for Ringo's jacket. Upon learning of her old friend's demise, the woman cried. The boy was surprised because many human emotions were foreign to him. He was also curious about the purpose of a diary. The woman replied that people usually write their most intimate thoughts and memories in a diary. The woman used to be able to read, but she is now blind. The boy asked her if there was anyone outside the gateway who could read it. The woman replied that there was nothing outside the gateway. They were only safe on the lake. The boy did not believe in all these horror stories. The woman allowed him to stay in her house for as long as he wanted, but the boy could not stop thinking about the diary. The next day, he begged the woman to open the gateway for him, but she said he would not find anyone there who could read it. The boy had no choice but to threaten the woman with a shotgun. She finally agreed to let him go, asking him not to trust anyone he meets on his journey. The woman opened the gateway, and the boy found himself in uncharted territory, about which people on the lake tell horror stories. The landscape was gray and joyless. People preferred to voluntarily leave life than to live in such a world. The boy landed on the shore and tied his boat to a tree. Soon he stumbled upon a long chain of old rusty cars. The boy had no idea what it was because he had never seen anything like it before. He spent the night in one of the cars and returned to shore in the morning, only the boat was gone. The rope had been cut. The boy walked in an unknown direction and eventually saw a house in front of him. Since he grew up on the lake, it was something completely new to him. Two men were harvesting crops. The boy pointed his shotgun at them. The men promised that if he lowered the gun, they would give him food. The young man was in no hurry to trust the strangers, but was very hungry, so he agreed to go to their home. The new acquaintances taught him how to use cutlery. The boy said he came from the lagoon, but someone had stolen his boat. It turned out that this man had taken the boat, believing its owner had died. After the catastrophe, when the poison spread throughout the planet, the men did not hide in a shelter but stayed to cultivate the land. Many did not believe that the land was still capable of bearing fruit. The boy asked the men if they could read. It turned out they could, but they refused to do so because the diary's owner clearly did not want anyone to see it. After persuasion, the men agreed to fulfill the boy's request, but only tomorrow. He could stay here overnight only on one condition. He had to give up the shotgun. The boy handed the shotgun to Lorenzo. When it got dark, Matteo asked him to follow him, saying he wanted to show something. It turned out that they were keeping a woman in the barn, whom they called a female. The men fed her once a day with rotten vegetables. Matteo boasted that they had 2 more of these. The men do it for business. Periodically certain customers come to them who are interested in such a commodity. At night, the boy could not fall asleep. He hugged the diary to his chest like the most valuable treasure. Eventually, the boy secretly left the house and sailed away on his boat. He dove into the water and sank to the bottom. The boy thought he saw the father in front of him, trying to tell him something. Turning around, the boy saw another copy of his father. They did not allow him to surface. It turned out to be just a nightmare. Lorenzo and Matteo woke the boy up, offering him to stay with them. Lorenzo promised the young man that he would read the diary entries to him in the evening. Matteo taught the boy how to cultivate the land, but it was a challenging task for him since he had grown up near the lake and was not accustomed to farming. In addition to everything else, the boy's duties included feeding the woman and keeping her cell clean. He did everything as Lorenzo and Matteo taught him. The woman told the boy not to trust these men. At first they treated her well too, but then locked up. When the woman asked the boy his name, he did not answer and told her to return to the cell. The woman asked to be released, saying her name was Maria. But the boy left anyway. As Lorenzo promised, he read what was written in the diary in the evening. According to the entries, the father was unhappy with his son. The boy's mother passed away during childbirth, leaving her husband alone. Lorenzo will read the rest tomorrow, provided the boy works again. Matteo gave the young man his jacket to use as a bedding. At night, the boy flipped through the pages of the diary, and then came to Maria and asked if she could read. She answered that her father can read. Maria promised that if the young man released her, she would find the father. The young man released the woman and gave her his jacket, telling Lorenzo and Matteo that he was leaving with her. Lorenzo asked him to stop, promising to read the diary right now. However, Lorenzo did not keep his promise, and the men began to make fun of the boy. He had to take Lorenzo's life to get his diary back. Angry Matteo attacked the young man, shouting that the father hated him. Maria came to the boy's aid and neutralized Matteo. Maria and her savior continued on together. The woman admitted that she did not know if her father could read. She lied to escape. But Maria is convinced that she saved the young man's life by doing so. He already guessed what was written in the diary. The boy was about to throw it into the river, but he didn't. Finally they reached the woman's house, but they were too late. Maria's father had already voluntarily left this world. She burst into tears. They burned down the house. The boy said he had to keep going. Before he left, Maria asked what his name was. The boy replied that he didn't know his name, but the father called him son. Feeling sorry for the woman, the young man offered her to come with him. Together they will find someone who can read. The young man and his companion continued to sail on the river on the boat. Maria feels guilty, realizing that the father deceased because of her, unable to cope with the grief after his daughter's disappearance. At night, they lit a fire on the shore and started talking. The boy is convinced that children are not being born now, but Maria said that her father claimed otherwise. The next day, they searched the forest for food. Maria advised the boy to beware of crocodiles, but he didn't know what that animal was. He had never seen it before. At some point, Maria stopped responding. The worried boy went to look for her, but then a man attacked him. He took bound Maria and the young man on his boat in an unknown direction. When they docked, the man led them to abandoned buildings. The man showed his catch to the leader, who ordered the woman to be left here and the young man to be taken to a cell. The boy realized that all these people around him were insane. However, he was not scared and asked the kidnapper if he could read. Usually people his age can read. The man took the diary, but did not read it, taking with him. Alone at night, he finally opened it. Meanwhile, the boy heard male laughter and realized that Maria was in trouble. The man continued reading, but was interrupted by the leader, who ordered him to wear the mask to hide his ugly face. The man confessed that he would not be able to harm the captive after reading it. The leader objected, saying that they needed food. But the man could not back down from his decision. Their entire past life had been forgotten, but this boy reminded him of his own son, whom he had taken his life. The leader told the man that he must forgive himself. They all had to do it because children have no place in a world like this. Then the leader ordered the man to kneel, close his eyes, and remember something about the past. But he could not remember anything except fear and pain, which could only be alleviated by another pain. Before leaving, the leader asked the man to get rid of the captive the very next day. In the morning, the man took a rifle and went to the boy. However, instead of shooting, the man opened the diary. The man started reading out loud. The father wrote about how scared he was for his son. The father tried to raise his child in a way that he wouldn't love him because love makes everyone weak. The man knew he didn't have much time left to live. He just hoped that the son would be able to survive without him in this terrible world. The son was the only one he lived for. As the boy listened, he couldn't hold back his tears. It turned out that the father didn't hate him, but loved him. After finishing reading, the man took the rifle again, and opening the door of the cell, left. Taking advantage of the moment, the boy escaped. But he didn't want to leave Maria behind, so he went off in search of her. Meanwhile, his savior went to the leader, saying that unlike all of them, he couldn't forgive himself for what they had done. The leader had no idea that the man had already taken the lives of everyone in their gang. Now it was the leader's turn. The boy found unconscious Maria and picked her up, while his savior was going to leave this life voluntarily. The boat sailed away from the shore. The boy hugged Maria, begging her to wake up. Overwhelmed with powerlessness and despair, the boy cried, not wanting to lose yet another loved one. Finally Maria woke up. They hugged each other and now they will survive together in this cruel world.